Hola, hola a todos. Muy buenos días. Espero que estén teniendo una mañana maravillosa. Bienvenidos a esta feria de empleo virtual presentada por el Clasificado y empleoslatinos.com. Si tienen preguntas sobre la feria de hoy, en el chat les voy a compartir dos teléfonos para que nos puedan contactar. Uno de los números son para que nos llamen. Se los voy a poner en el chat. Pero también se los voy a repetir en caso que no tengan acceso, no puedan ver su chat. El número es 855-491-1435 o también tienen la opción de mandarnos un texto al número 323-643-8445. Una vez más, 323-643-8445. Mi nombre es Jocelyn Pacías y trabajo en el Departamento de Mercado en El Clasificado. El día de hoy seré su anfitriona para los talleres que tenemos preparados para ustedes. Déjenles muestro la agenda de hoy. Como pueden ver, nosotros estamos en el grupo 3, donde el tema de hoy es creando el currículum perfecto. Y también tenemos otros temas en el grupo 1, grupo 2 y el grupo 3. Ahorita mismo les voy a dejar esos enlaces en el chat por si quieren o prefieren otro de los temas. Se pueden ir directamente haciendo clic en el enlace. Y si no tienen acceso, no pueden ver el chat una vez más. Todo esto está disponible en nuestra página principal, superatela.com, superatela.com. Y bueno, el tema de hoy que vamos a tener ahorita va a ser en inglés y va a ser sobre cómo crear el currículum perfecto, how to create your perfect resume. Pero si tienen preguntas en español, las pueden hacer por medio del chat y con gusto se las traduzco a nuestro presentador, Bess Richard. Y también tienen la opción de levantar la mano, también pueden preguntarnos lo que sea en el Q&A, así que tienen diferentes opciones para que se puedan contactar con nosotros. Y bueno, seguimos ahora con nuestro siguiente panelista. Les presento a Bess Richard de Equus con el tema de creando el currículum perfecto, creating the perfect resume. Welcome, Bess. The screen is all yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Jocelyn. I hope you guys can hear me. If not, just let Jocelyn know because I have my screen up and I won't be able to see you through the presentation. So just send her a chat. So before we get started, I just want to give a quick thank you to El Clasificado. I'm so excited for all of you. I'm glad to be here, glad to be welcomed as a panelist, but I'm very excited for all of you to have this platform to be able to connect with employers. And it's such a difficult time right now. And so something like this is so valuable to get your job search rolling. And, I would encourage all of you to get comfortable with this platform and the technology of being on Zoom or WebEx or something like Google Meets, because for the meantime, this is the way that you're going to be able to do your job search and reach out to employers. So with that, I have slides for this presentation, and I will make sure that it's made available to you. So I don't know how that will happen, but I will coordinate it through Jocelyn. Okay, so now we're going to get going, and let me
Sorry
share
to
my
interrupt real
slides.
quick. Bess,
Yes?
you're able to share your screen right now if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen right now. I just
Okay.
wanted to do the intro so they could see me.
Awesome. Good to know.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. Can you guys see that? Okay.
Yes,
Okay, can you guys see that?
Yes, we can see that.
Okay, terrific. Okay, and before we get started, just something really quick about myself. I just want to give you guys a background about me. So I'm a career coach. I teach people how to transition into careers, and I teach them how to make their career move, whether it's their first or their next. I've been career coaching for some 30 years now. And 20 years of that was as an IT executive at Bank of America, where I was the Chief Technology Governance Officer and the Chief Technology Administrative Officer. And throughout my career at Bank of America, I led individuals and teams, mentored them, coached them through a high growth .com period. If you guys remember the late 90s and the early 2000s, that's when the internet kind of exploded. And so a lot of the .com era started from there. A lot of technology organizations popped up. Things brick and mortar started showing up on the internet. So, and that's kind of where I started. And then I took all that experience and I parlayed it into a new career as a career coach. So about 12 years ago, I launched my second career. And since then, I've been career coaching and helping clients go through their career strategies. And I did that as in a private practice. So it was kind of an insulated time because it was one-on-one, and most of my clients I met off, I would go over and consult with them, but it was one-on-one. And 2 years ago, I became an empty nester, and my youngest child went off to college, and I found myself at home, like I said, kind of insulated and not really understanding what's going on in the real workforce. So I went out and found myself a network, reached out to people, asked for help, called a lot of my old contacts, and started talking to people. And so 2 years ago, I found myself, so I've been employed with Equus Workforce Solutions now, and that's my current gig. I'm also continuing to do my freelance work, but I've coached over 1,200 clients, and I advocate for personal growth and change. And I do it using a common sense approach to coaching. And so with that, my goal is always to start with a goal and end with a plan, and I can help you guys too. So let's get started with this resume writing overview. Let's see. Okay, so really quick, before I get too far into the presentation, I want to start with this quote. It's one of my favorite quotes from author Marianne Rodmacher. And it talks about courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow. And basically that means that, to me, that means you don't always have to come at everything strongly. And I know that during this difficult time with the pandemic, it's hard to figure out what you're going to do next. But remember, there's that, that strength inside of you that you can count on, that there's always hope for tomorrow. Okay, so I've talked about a little bit about myself. Let me talk a little bit about Equus Workforce Solutions, which is the company that I consult for. And we are a workforce solutions. We provide workshops and assistance to the community at no cost to the community. We are funded by the federal government, and it's administered through the City of Los Angeles through these referral programs. For example, one of probably the most popular one is Targeted Local Hire and Bridge to Jobs. So if you're interested in breaking into the City of Los Angeles and getting a civil service job, we can help you with referrals for that. There are also paid IT apprenticeships that we can hook you up with. We have career coaching one-on-one, and I would be the one doing that with you guys, resume scrubs, mock interviews, so all kinds of interview preparation we can walk you through, and linking you to networking groups that are out there. Okay. So today's goal and agenda. I normally do this as a 2-hour workshop. So this presentation is usually interactive. There's a lot of dialogue back and forth. But today we really only have probably more like 25 minutes to go through the presentation and then Q&A afterwards. So the focus is really about looking at what skills are great for resume writing and how to enhance them, how to focus on them, knowing what they are, and what works in a resume, what makes a resume good, and how can we make sure that you guys write a perfect resume or close to perfect, and be able to spot problems and get ahead of them so that you can write that great resume. So let's start. What is the primary goal of a resume? And this is when I usually ask people the question, and I usually get some answers back. And normally the answers that come back are things like, well, the primary goal of a resume is to show off your qualifications, to show that you meet the needs and the standards of the job description. And those are really good answers, but they're kind of more indirect. And so when we're talking about what the primary goal of a resume is, it's really to land an interview. So if you can remember that the primary goal of a resume is to land an interview, then you're closer to your goal, because that's what you need to do and focus your resume. So when we're talking about the kinds of skills that you're going to need to master resume writing, self-discipline, self-marketing, precision writing, storytelling, research, these are the important skills that will help you to write that great resume. Because at the end of the day, your resume needs to sell you. You are selling a product with your resume, and you are the product. So keeping that in mind will help you build a really good resume, because now you're talking about yourself, and this is the time to boast. This is the time to talk about yourself, showcase your talents, your experience, the things that you are amazing at, your strengths, and all that whole combination that makes you unique. You have to sell that product. And then you have to get into the habit of writing one resume for each job you apply, and you'll probably end up with maybe 3 or 4 resumes that you cycle through and that you tweak from time to time. And that's what's important to understand, is that one resume does not fit all. Okay, there are 3 types of resumes, and you'll find this: reverse chronological, there's a functional resume, and combination resume. The most common one is the reverse chronological, and the other ones are, I'll see them from time to time. Most recruiters prefer the chronological. It's just the easiest to sift through, the easiest to parse the information. Let's talk about the major category headings for each resume. There's a summary section, usually at the very top, and it replaces objective. We used to say objective, now we're going to say summary, or we can say profile or career profile. You may have an achievement section. Some people don't. Some people blend it in with their summary section, or sometimes it's in their professional experience section. There's definitely an education, certifications and accreditations. Sometimes they're also blended with education. And then there's the core skills section, sometimes called competencies or core competencies. Let's start from the top down, header information. So make sure that your name is bolded and bigger than in font size than the rest of your resume. This is so important. I still see a lot of resumes where it looks kind of timid. If you're not showing off yourself, then you're kind of showing a lack of confidence. So you need that big and bolded and upfront. Make sure that all your contact information, which is part of the header, is easy to find. This is a time where you can also, a place where you can also add a job title. So if you're an administrative manager, put that in your header as a job title under your name, so it sticks out. If you're a school teacher, elementary school teacher, put that down. If you're a network manager. And then it helps because it gives them a frame of reference for who they're looking at. Language skills are important. This is a place to also put it. I see it a lot in the summary. Sometimes people miss out on putting it. This is so important. We're a bilingual community. If you've got bilingual skills, by all means, let people know. And then make sure you have a professional email name and an updated email address. And what I mean by that is if you still have an email address that says Yahoo or AOL, it's kind of dating you and you might be discriminated. There is still age discrimination out there. So be aware of that. So now let's talk about the summary. Again, it's not called objective anymore. And this is where you're going to be telling a story about yourself. And this is kind of really important because when you're writing your summary, this is the time where you want to impress. And you only have really less than 10 seconds to do it. And, when you have your resume, I don't know if you guys can see a resume. Maybe it's hard to see the resume, but that top third of your resume is all they're going to look at. And they're looking for something that grabs their attention. And if you don't have it in there, your resume gets put in the reject pile. So focus on that. Focus on talking about your story. How are you going to get that job? And focus on talking about the areas that you're strong in, the functions and responsibilities that you oversaw, titles, awards that you received, and importantly, align your summary to the company's values and mission statements and things that are important to them. They want to know that you understand maybe what their pain points are or what they're trying to work towards, and that if your summary is lined up with that, that gets their attention. You definitely want to do that. Okay, so context frames your experience and grounds the reader. And what I mean by that is, what are you trying to tell them? So in the summary section, this is your introduction. This is your way to start to talk about yourself. And it's important that you anchor the reader. And that means when you start to talk about yourself, what are you saying? So for example, just as an analogy, are you building a garage? You start to talk about what it is. It's got 4 walls, it's got a foundation, it's got 4 walls, it's got a roof. So how much information are you expressing? Is it enough for the reader to understand what you're talking about? So here's an example. A committed, organized analyst in a busy office. Great communication, relationship skills, adaptable, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Does that say anything to you about who this person is and what kind of an environment they work in? Is it enough for you to relate information that it's worth to the reader to keep reading? Because I'm going to tell you, when I look at this, and I grabbed this directly from a resume that I worked on with a client, this doesn't say anything to me. It's a bunch of superfluous words that don't have any meaning behind them. A committed, organized analyst in a busy office. Committed? I don't know if you're committed or if you're organized. Probably not until I read further down. But right now, I'm not even interested in reading further down. Organized, you know, great communication, relationship skills. I won't know that until I actually interview you. So it's when we get to talking, that dialogue, asking questions, that I'll find out if you have integrity or a high level of patience. But when you tell me collect the documents and have attention to detail, wow, I have no frame of reference for what to do with that. So let's take another example. Here's one, bilingual office administrator with over 10 years experience in supporting a 40-plus person office in health, education, and aerospace. Wow, that told me a lot of stuff. Bilingual, start with that if you're bilingual. Office administrator, you gave me a title. Now I know generally what field you worked in. Over 10 years of experience, that tells me you're very seasoned. You've been doing this for a while. Supporting a 40-plus person office. 40-plus person office, that's probably a pretty big office to support if you're doing the office management for this organization. And you did it in the health field, the education field, and aerospace. What does that tell me? So I can infer a lot of information from this. Health, education, aerospace, that's a wide variety. That probably tells me that you're highly adaptable, you're flexible. So rather than, you know, what you see in example 1, where he or she is talking about adaptable, in example 2, I can see that she's adaptable because she's giving me facts. She's giving me meaningful information, and she's created that an amazing profile for me. So it's okay to use those keywords like committed and adaptable, but you've got to back them up. So look at the next sentence. Excellent communication skills to address customer inquiries. Wow, so she's got great customer service skills. Coordinates the front office, organized schedules, record keeping. So it's just not just organizing generally. She's doing all these amazing things. That's what I want for my front office when I'm hiring. She's the one he or she is the one I'm interested in. Now look at that last thing, employee of the month recipient in various positions held. So employee of the month, if you got accolades like that, if you got rewards like that, brag about it, put it in the summary. That's really a great showy thing to talk about, because if you're employee of the month, you are competing with, I don't know, 15, 30, I don't know, your department might be really big. And if you are the employee of the month and you did it in different positions, that tells me you're a hard worker, you're committed. And so I'm going to be really interested in you. So here's another example, similar thing. This one's probably somebody that has less experience because only 3+ years. But look at, she gives me a lot of information. Tells me that she's in the law field, and then she uses exceptional attention to detail. And be careful using those words, attention to detail, because the first thing a recruiter or an employer will look for, an HR person looking at your resume, when they see that, is they're going to look for errors. It's kind of a challenge for them. So look at example 1, where she ends with attention to detail. I already found something. She's missing a period in her paragraph at the very end. So what does that tell me? She actually lacks attention to detail, and that just what it did just kind of ended in a big crash for her resume. So I'm not going to be interested in her. But look at sample 3, exceptional attention to detail, and then she follows it on with examples, facts. Proofreading legal documents, yeah, that requires a lot of attention to detail. So I'm kind of sold. I believe that she's got those skills, and you know, I'm really interested in her. Okay, and here's an example resume of an elementary school teacher. Take a look at that. They put elementary school teacher right below their name. So I don't have to figure out who they are, what they're looking for. And then probably something I would change in this resume is that, where we talked about it earlier, and when you see the slides again later, you'll see, just to give your resume more polish, avoid having to say cell next to your cell number. It's obvious, or email next to your email address. It's obvious, so remove it. It'll give your resume more polish. Okay. Skills or core competencies. Make sure that your skills and core competencies are aligned with your with what the job entails. So you're looking at your job posting, you want to line up the skills that are appropriate and focus on the technical skills, less on the soft skills. The soft skills are harder to quantify, so stay away from them. And then these are not skills. Organized, dedicated, committed. Look for hard skills, and you'll find them in your resume in the experience or training section. Anything that you were trained in, that's where you'll glean your skills. Now we're going to talk about the experience section. What did you do? What did you accomplish? How did you measure your success? And again, we're going back to what are the skills that go into resume writing. And when you're talking about the experience section, it's all about selling yourself, being able to tell that story that sparks your interest enough to keep looking at the rest of your resume. This is where you have the opportunity to talk about the results that you provided to your past organizations, your past companies that you worked for, your problem-solving abilities. Metrics are very important in this section. Look on the right side where it says align to job description, align to company. There's that word again, align. Very important. Whenever you're writing your resume, make sure it's aligning to the job post, to the job description, to the company's values, to their goals, to their pain points, to the things that are important to them. Okay? And then you're going to include your job duties, not just your job duties. Remember, also your achievements and your metrics. So how do you find those achievements and your metrics? You're always going to look for big picture, the bottom line. This is what companies are concerned with. They're concerned with customer satisfaction, increasing sales or revenue. They're particularly focused on minimizing risk. And this is kind of, top down. As you get to the bottom, it's more probably at the department level. And then you want to look at your organization goals, the company's goals, the companies that you worked for. What were you accountable for to meet those goals? And usually, you probably have a performance review once a year, and during that performance review, you're given goals to help the company succeed. And they may come in a number of things. These are just some examples in the right column. And yours will be different depending on where you worked. And so you're going to recall those goals, and those are the things that you're going to talk about, how you were able to lead successfully or met the goals of your company. Okay. And then you want to show accomplishments and how you met success in your job. So if I'm an HR person and I've got 2 candidates in front of me, I've whittled down 1,000 resumes, and now I've got 2 resumes, 2 candidates in front of me. And they both worked in very, pretty much the same field. They have the same number of experience. They have the same amount of education. They receive training in pretty much the same areas. How am I going to differentiate between the 2? Who am I going to choose? And that will come down to your accomplishments and how you succeeded in your last job. And so some examples on the right side. If I'm looking at your resume and you wrote conducted outbound cold calls for a vehicle warranty product. And then I look at Joe's resume, the other candidate, but he writes, let's see, look at the third bullet. He writes, conducted outbound cold calls for vehicle warranties and increased product line sales, completing target of 100 plus calls a day. What do you think I'm going to choose? The one that only told me what they did, or the one that told me what they did and how successful they were? Right? I'm going to choose Joe. He stands out to me. He stands out as hardworking. He stands out as maybe it's someone that's results oriented, that's a problem solver. That's what I'm looking for. Every company is looking for a problem solver and someone that can achieve their goals. So he's the guy for me. And then, so how did your work advance the organization? Why is it important? So at this time, we're talking about passive wording versus active phrasing. You want to stay away from using passive words like reported to or accepted or participated. You want to talk about what you did really after that. So you accepted documents from the legal department. So what? I mean, I can see you there taking the documents. How did that help you? How did that help the company? You want to talk about what you did with those documents, really. So these are some examples on the right side of what active phrasing is. And I'm looking at the time, and we probably have another 5 minutes. So let me go through this really quickly. You want to talk about what you did, not what you are. Education and certifications. You want to include certifications and licenses if you have those. Very important. Always list your degree first. And if you have any dates older than 5 years, I would remove them. And that's just to avoid age discrimination. They'll find out soon enough anyway. But if that's the first thing they see, then it's less likely that they will look at the rest of your resume. And that's going to be a shame if you're really the right candidate for it. And then for recent graduates, the education section should be topmost in your resume, probably even above the experience section, especially if you're a recent graduate and you have additional certifications within a 5-year. So down below are examples of how I would write and list your education. You should start with your degree or your certificate name, followed by the institution that issued your certificate, city and state, and then the date. That's just my preference. You can do it in a number of different ways. I like this because it shows the certification right away. And then this is just the resume writing. This is kind of a little cheat sheet that I created. And you can have this at some point to remind you that you should be focusing on values and results when you're writing your resume. Really quick in the do's section, 1-page resume versus a 2+ page resume. And I will still see 2+ pages of resumes. 1 page is the industry standard and what recruiters and a lot of HR people prefer. The reason for that is that it's a test to see how well you can focus your information and target your resume to match up to their job. They want to know that you can do that. And 1 page is a challenge, but if you can do it, you'll grab their attention. And that's a skill. That's part of being good at writing resumes. The other thing is, and why 1-page resume is good is because you have to remember that a lot of recruiters receive thousands of resumes, hundreds of resumes for one job opening. And they're told by their manager, I would like usually they're told, I want the top 10 candidates in 30 minutes. Give me your top 10 from that list. And they've got to whittle down 1,000 resumes to 10 resumes, 10 candidates. And how are they going to do that? Well, one of the things they'll do is, if you have a 2-page resume, they don't have time to look at that. They only have 5 to 10 seconds to look at each resume. That means your resume, if it's 2 pages or more, gets put in the no pile. it never even gets looked at. So it's one way for them to deselect your resume, to disqualify you. It's unfair, but that's what happens. So just something to think about. Okay. Then here's kind of a resume that we can, you know, it's kind of hard to see, but if you take a look at it, you can see all the areas that I covered. And look at, for this person, elementary school teacher, education is high up in the resume. So if you want to take a look at that. And then you can read this at your own leisure at some point and look at the summary and how they've written it. And then just some related topics. So find a resume format that works for you. Microsoft has some great Word resume templates. Make sure you write your own resume, make it your own. It's very important so that you can defend the words, the phrases that you put in there. If somebody else writes it for you, it becomes really difficult at interview time when they start to talk about it and it's not in the words, in the same words that you are speaking. So make sure you write your own resume. And it's a great exercise for interviews, like I mentioned. Leave out salary. It's not should not be included in a resume. References should not be included in a resume. Some point down the line, you're going to need to be able to write cover letters. Look into T-matrix cover letters. You'll find it if you Google. It's what recruiters prefer, because it's really easy to parse the information and to find your qualifications and to know if you meet the qualifications or not. And then be aware of application tracking systems. We didn't spend a lot of time on this, but when your resume lands in a company's office, the first touch is not going to be a human person. It's going to be an application tracking system or a scanner is probably what you've learned. So a scanner, it'll run through a scanner, track for code words, keywords, and look for information that shows if you're qualified for the position. And if you're not, 95% qualified for a position, don't bother applying to the job. You're just going to waste your time. Okay, so this is a recap of, I think, what I talked about earlier. If you want to take a picture of this, you can reach out to me, bess.richard@equusworks.com. Send me your resume, email me your resume, and I can help you. It's no cost to you. And then I guess we can move on to questions. I love questions. Questions are my favorite.
Awesome. I do see we have a few questions, Bess. I'm going to go ahead and let you know. So somebody asked, how much color should I use in my resume?
So you can use color in your resume. Make sure it's not distracting, and make sure that it's also within the context of your resume. And what I mean by that is usually you'll find color for certain positions, like graphic. If you're a graphic designer, that's kind of expected because you're in a creative field. So they'll want to see that you put in some punch into your resume like that. Or if you're in the entertainment field, those things are very helpful. But make sure they don't distract from your content, that they don't take away from the easy way of finding information. But color is okay. Not too much.
Awesome, thank you. And another question was, do you recommend adding a photo? If so, like what size?
Photos are not advisable. Actually, photos are very popular in Europe. So if you have ever seen if you have a candidate that that came from to you from Europe or outside of the United States, you'll probably see a face, a picture. But it's not advisable for resumes here domestically. Recruiters aren't used to seeing pictures. It's a little bit standoffish. it's not our standard here. It's not our policy. And then you might see it on CVs, which are curriculum vitae, which is a little different than resumes. And those are really saved for when a recruiter is, or maybe a headhunter is sponsoring you or representing you. So that's a little different, but generally stay away from putting pictures, your picture on a resume.
Awesome. I think that was all the questions we have for now.
Okay. Well, so my understanding is this is going to be translated into Spanish?
Correct. So this is going to be translated into Spanish. We'll have that available in the next couple of days. But thank you so much for joining us, Bess.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Perfecto. Ahora, gracias, Bess, por toda tu información. Y en un par de días tendremos esta presentación para ustedes traducida para que la puedan ver de nuevo si gustan. Esto concluye los talleres del día de hoy, pero la feria de trabajo aún sigue. Los invitamos que visiten los booths virtuales para conectarse con las empresas y organizaciones que están contratando ahora mismo. Podrán ver qué empleos tienen disponibles y hasta hablar directamente con ellos, y, ya sea para una entrevista o para pedirles más detalles sobre el trabajo. Les voy a compartir el link en el chat para que lo puedan ver. Les dejé el enlace en el chat. Prácticamente es Supérate Ley Virtual Career Fair .careerfair.live. Ahí cuando se metan podrán ver el portal y ver todos los trabajos disponibles. Si están teniendo dificultades, nos pueden llamar al número 855-491-1435. Una vez más, nos pueden llamar al número 855-491-1435 o nos pueden mandar mensaje de texto al 323-643-8445 y ese número para mandarnos mensaje es 323-643-8445. Cuando vayan al enlace, deberá ingresar su correo electrónico con el que se registró. Si aún no se ha registrado, lo puede hacer directamente en esa página. Y si tienen cualquier pregunta o lo que sea, les he dejado el número del enlace allí. También se los voy a dejar aquí en pantalla para que lo puedan ver. Se va a llevar a cabo en ese link que ven en pantalla desde las 12 a las 4. Y también les dejé el número de teléfono para llamarnos o mandarnos mensaje. Ahí está toda la información que van a necesitar. Gracias por estar con nosotros el día de hoy y que pasen un excelente día. Muchas gracias.